Have you ever, been so incredibly good at your job that you get promoted, only to wake up a few months later and feel like you are suddenly just completely failing?
Oh, yeah. It happens all the time.
Right. Like you were an absolute rock star yesterday, and today you are just drowning.
Drowning, yeah.
So if you are nodding your head right now, or, if you ever plan on moving up in your career, today's deep dive is entirely for you.
It's, it is a surprisingly universal experience. We see it across almost every industry, from software engineering to healthcare.
Oh, for sure.
You take the top performer, you reward their excellence with a management position, and suddenly, everything just seems to fall apart.
Yeah.
The very skills that earn them the promotion seem to be the exact things destroying their ability to do the new job.
And that paradox is exactly what we are unpacking today. We're pulling from some really fantastic source material today. It's a piece called The Leadership Shift, From Leading Children to Building Educators.
It's a great read.
It really is. And our mission today is to decode the exact reasons why star employees crash and burn when they become managers. We are going to look at the deep psychological rewiring required to survive this transition.
Right, to actually become a leader. And to ground this in reality, we're going to follow a highly realistic case study from the text. We will follow an educator named Emma, who fell right into this promotion trap.
Poor Emma.
Right. But by breaking down her journey, we can pinpoint the exact moment her old superpowers became her new kryptonite. It is this fascinating look at the internal friction every new manager faces when they have to abandon the craft they mastered.
Okay, let's unpack this, because Emma's story, it starts out like a dream.
Yeah, she was doing great.
She isn't just a good early childhood educator at Bright Beginnings Childcare. She is like a legend there.
7 years she's been there.
Exactly. Parents are literally requesting that their toddlers be placed in her classroom. Her kids are flourishing. Her licensing inspections are totally flawless. And she's already acting as this, informal mentor for the rest of the staff.
She is the absolute archetype of the high-performing individual contributor. I mean, when someone in the building is struggling with an upset child, they immediately go to Emma.
Right.
When a parent is anxious, Emma handles it. So naturally, when the assistant center director position opens up, everyone agrees she is the obvious choice.
It just makes sense.
The logic dictates that, well, if she runs the best classroom, she should be able to teach everyone else how to run a great classroom.
Except that logic is fundamentally flawed, and the wheels completely fall off.
Completely.
Fast forward just 3 months into her new role, Emma is exhausted. She's working 12-hour days and seriously wondering if she made the biggest mistake of her life.
And the most painful part for her is that the childcare center isn't actually getting better.
No.
It's regressing. It's regressing because it's becoming completely dependent on her personal energy.
Yes, exactly.
Instead of leading, she is just doing more of what she used to do, but at this frantic, unsustainable pace. She's covering sick calls by jumping into classrooms herself.
Oh.
Yeah, she is reorganizing learning centers because she doesn't like how the newer staff did it. She's completing lesson plans for struggling educators, and she's even staying late to, clean classrooms and fix licensing binders.
It makes me think of this music analogy. It's like taking the absolute best lead guitarist in a band.
No, I like this.
And promoting them to be the band manager, and suddenly the band is failing because the new manager keeps running onto the stage during the concert, grabbing the guitar out of the new player's hands.
And trying to play all the solos.
Yes, because they simply cannot help themselves. Playing the guitar is what they're good at.
That imagery captures the exact mechanism of failure here. What's fascinating here is the underlying principle. Your old strengths don't just become irrelevant. They actually become your biggest weakness.
That is so wild to think about.
It is, but think about what made Emma so successful as an educator. It was her hands-on, highly responsive, detail-oriented nature. If she saw a problem, her instinct was to fix it immediately. But effective leadership requires almost the exact opposite approach. Her instinct to jump in and save the day is exactly what disqualified her from leading the team in that moment.
So Emma is basically drowning in her own competence, which leads to this pivotal intervention with the center director, Sarah.
Yeah, the coffee shop conversation.
Right. They sit down for coffee, and Emma is just venting. She's saying, I don't understand. I'm working harder than ever. I'm fixing everything, doing everything. Why is no one stepping up?
And Sarah drops this absolute truth bomb on her.
She really does. She says, you were promoted because you were the best educator, but you were not promoted to educate children anymore. You were promoted to build educators.
That single sentence forces a complete identity shift. It is the pivot from I create great classrooms to I create educators who create great classrooms.
It's a huge shift.
The source actually anchors this concept in something called the Leadership Pipeline Framework. This framework maps out the distinct cognitive and behavioral shifts a person has to make at each new level of leadership.
Yeah.
And the hardest turn in that pipeline is this first one. The shift in skills from managing yourself to managing others. Emma had to transition from teaching children to coaching adults.
And the text gets really specific about what that actually looks like in practice. Instead of seeing a messy licensing binder and saying, I'll do it, which is the reflex of a high performer.
Yeah, the instant fix.
Right. She had to learn to sit on her hands, step back, and ask the staff member, how would you handle this? She had to learn delegation. But I have to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
When you are in the thick of it, when the center is chaotic, a parent is waiting in the lobby and you are incredibly busy, that old thinking is so tempting.
It is tempting because it works in the short term.
Exactly. Doing it yourself is objectively faster. If a staff member is struggling to fill out an incident report, taking 20 minutes to coach them through it versus just taking the pen and fixing it yourself in 5 minutes.
I know, it feels crazy.
How do you justify slowing down the entire operation? When the pressure is on, long-term coaching feels like a luxury you cannot afford.
I hear that resistance, and it is the ultimate trap of the new manager. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to run the actual math on hoarding those tasks.
The math.
Yeah. The text makes it clear that rescuing poor performers instead of coaching them guarantees you will be doing their job forever. Yes, it takes 20 minutes today and maybe 20 minutes tomorrow to coach them through that incident report.
Right.
But if you give in to the temptation and just fix it in 5 minutes yourself, you are signing a contract to spend 5 minutes fixing it every single day for the rest of your career.
Oh, wow. You're trading a temporary 20-minute investment for a permanent 5-minute daily tax.
Precisely. You aren't saving time. You are actively preventing your team from growing. And Emma also had to learn how to give constructive feedback. The text notes she initially avoided difficult conversations because, like most top performers, she wanted everyone to like her.
Oh, the people-pleasing trap.
Yes, she was used to being the popular rock star. But true leadership requires understanding that kind leaders still hold people accountable.
Right.
If she kept hiring people just to quickly fill a gap and relieve the immediate pressure, she would constantly be fighting fires. She had to learn a completely new skill, hiring for values, coachability, and growth potential, even if it meant leaving a position open a little longer.
But it's one thing to accept that identity shift in your head, right? It's entirely another to look at your calendar on a Monday morning and actually schedule your day differently. If your mindset shifts but your calendar doesn't, nothing changes.
Nothing changes at all.
The source calls this the time application realignment, and the breakdown they provide is honestly jarring.
Calendar shock is how they describe it, and the contrast is stark. The source maps out Emma's exact time allocation before and after her promotion.
Let's hear the numbers.
Before, as a star educator, her calendar was heavily weighted toward her craft. She spent 70% of her time directly interacting with children, 15% talking with parents, 10% on paperwork, and only 5% interacting with the rest of the staff.
And then you look at the pie chart for her new role as assistant director, and it completely flips. She is supposed to spend 30% of her week coaching staff, 20% on classroom observations, 15% handling parent escalations.
It's basically a totally different job.
It is. 10% on hiring and onboarding, 10% on strategic planning, 10% on admin, and only 5% on emergency classroom coverage. So her time doing the thing she loves, working with the children, dropped from 70% to essentially 5%.
That is a profound emotional loss.
Yeah, I bet.
The very thing that brought you joy, the daily interactions that validated your talent, is suddenly removed from your plate. You're looking at a calendar filled with one-on-one meetings and strategic planning, and it feels terribly uncomfortable.
Definitely.
To illustrate the real-world friction of this calendar shift, the text shares an anecdote called "The Hardest Day."
Oh, tell me how that plays out, because the sheer restraint required here is intense.
It really is. So it's a typical chaotic morning. An educator calls in sick at the last minute, leaving the toddler room short-staffed and out of ratio.
Nightmare scenario.
Right. And the old Emma, the hero, immediately reacts. She grabs a staff apron, ties it on, and announces, "Don't worry, I'm going into the toddler room to cover."
Makes sense.
But Sarah, the director, physically steps in her path and stops her. She says no. Emma's totally confused, pointing out the obvious fact that they are short-staffed and need coverage immediately.
Like, obviously, I need to go in there.
Exactly. And Sarah just calmly asks her, what would your educators do to solve this if you weren't here today?
Oh, here's where it gets really interesting to me. Because Emma is forced to pause and realize they'd figure it out.
They really would.
They would shuffle a floater, they would combine a group temporarily, they would find a solution. It's like watching a toddler learn to walk.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right, like, as a parent, every fiber of your being wants to hover over them and catch them every single time they wobble. But if you never let them fall on their butt a few times, they literally never develop the core muscles and the inner ear balance required to walk on their own. The act of saving them is actually stunting their development.
And watching them wobble is agonizing for the parent, or in this case, the manager. The text defines this explicitly as allowing for healthy struggle.
Healthy struggle.
Yeah. True leadership isn't about rushing in to save the day like a superhero, even when you know you could do it better and faster. It is about deliberately stepping back, enduring the discomfort of watching things be slightly messy, to force your team to build their own problem-solving muscles.
Wow.
If you eliminate the struggle, you completely eliminate the growth.
But undoing that discomfort requires a deep, fundamental rewiring of your own psychology. We are moving past just how you manage your calendar and getting into what you actually value, like where you derive your self-worth. The text frames this as the shift in work values.
According to the source, this is where the vast majority of new leaders ultimately fail.
Really?
Yeah, because the promotion isn't just a change in tasks. It's a required change in what you value at your core. Think about Emma's old values. She used to value perfect classrooms, happy parents, beautiful lesson plans, and, crucially, personal recognition for achieving those things.
Which is perfectly fine for an individual contributor. You want your staff to value those things.
Absolutely. But they aren't enough anymore. As a leader, she has to value developing people. Instead of going home and asking, did I teach the children well today? She has to ask a much harder question.
Which is?
Did my educators become better today because of my leadership? She has to value building invisible systems that prevent issues, rather than getting the glory of fixing visible issues herself. The text has a brilliant comparison chart showing this shift. It moves from, I value my own hard work, to, I value making others more effective.
So what does this all mean for your own sense of achievement? Because I'll be honest, this sounds like a massive, isolating ego hit.
Oh, it totally is.
When you are the one doing the work, you get the immediate gold star. The parent thanks you directly, the child hugs you, the licensing inspector looks at your specific binder and praises you. You are fueled by these daily, tangible hits of dopamine and personal validation.
Yeah, you get addicted to it.
Right. And when you become a manager, nobody claps for you when you successfully coach a staff member behind closed doors. It sounds incredibly difficult to give up that dopamine and wait for the delayed gratification of your team's success.
It is a profound sacrifice of ego. You're giving up the immediate applause for the quiet satisfaction of building capacity. And this raises an important question that the text tackles head-on. How do you redefine your own success?
Right. How do you?
They introduce the concept of leadership multiplication.
Okay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, as an individual, your impact is limited by the hours in the day and your own two hands. But as a leader, your success is no longer measured by your addition, but by your multiplication.
Oh, I like that.
It is measured entirely by what 10, 20, or 50 other people accomplish, because you created the environment for them to succeed. You are trading the spotlight for the director's chair. You aren't the star anymore. You are the one making the stars shine.
That is a beautiful way to frame it. But the transition from star to director doesn't just happen overnight. The source doesn't just leave us with this high-level philosophy. It actually translates these psychological shifts into a very actionable 6-month practical development plan.
It's super helpful.
It provides a literal roadmap to navigate this ego death and skill acquisition.
The structure of this 6-month plan is fascinating because it forces behavioral changes before the mindset changes fully catch up.
Fake it till you make it, kinda.
Exactly. Month 1 is entirely about stopping the bleeding. The plan gives explicit instructions on what to stop doing. It says, stop covering every classroom, stop solving every minor problem, and stop rewriting lesson plans for your staff.
That sounds rough.
It is. And simultaneously, it tells you to start doing weekly one-on-ones, daily coaching conversations, and aggressive delegation.
Which honestly sounds like the hardest month. You're essentially breaking an addiction to being the hero. Every instinct is screaming at you to jump in, and you are forcing yourself to stay on the sidelines.
It is deeply uncomfortable.
Okay.
But if you can survive month 1, month 2 shifts the focus entirely to observation. The mantra here is observe before intervening, ask questions before giving answers, coach before solving.
Bite your tongue, basically.
This is exactly where you practice biting your tongue. Instead of telling a staff member how to handle a difficult parent,
Yeah.
you ask them to role play with you. You force the cognitive load back onto them.
Then, as they start carrying that cognitive load, month 3 is about creating genuine independence. You aren't just coaching everyone yourself anymore. You are starting that multiplication process. The plan suggests developing your strongest educator to become a room leader and assigning another to mentor new hires.
Right.
You're intentionally building other leaders to replace your own function.
And that sets the stage for months 4 through 6, which are all about building systems to replace heroics. If a center relies on a heroic manager to function, it is a fragile center.
So fragile.
Emma's goal in these final months is to build a machinery that runs the place, standardizing the onboarding process, implementing classroom quality checklists, establishing regular weekly team meetings, and creating peer recognition systems. She is building an infrastructure that doesn't require her personal energy to keep the lights on.
Which brings us to the ultimate payoff in Emma's journey. Fast forward 6 months, she is walking through the childcare center. She sees a brand new educator calmly handling a challenging parent conversation, using the exact techniques they practiced in a one-on-one.
A great feeling.
She sees another educator redirecting a frustrated child beautifully without needing to call for backup. The lesson plans on the walls are strong. The licensing documentation is current. And Emma realizes something profound. Nobody in this building actually needs her right now.
And that realization is the ultimate victory. Sarah, the director, pulls Emma aside and asks her the ultimate test question for any leader. If you disappeared for 2 weeks tomorrow, what would happen?
The ultimate test.
And for the first time, Emma can confidently say, the center would run just fine without me.
That is so counterintuitive to everything we are taught about work. True success in leadership is literally managing yourself out of a job. If you are indispensable to the daily operations, you aren't a leader, you're a bottleneck.
Exactly. That is the moment Sarah congratulates her on finally completing the shift. To help the reader gauge their own progress, the text offers some brilliant weekly reflection questions. These are things every manager, new or experienced, should be asking themselves on a Friday afternoon.
Like what?
Questions like, did I coach more than I directed this week? Am I creating dependency on my skills or capability in my team? And perhaps the most piercing question, am I proud of what I accomplished today, or am I proud of what my team accomplished?
So, if you are listening to this right now, whether you are an educator, a software engineer trying to manage a dev team, a top sales rep who just became a sales director, or someone running a warehouse, the core takeaway is universal.
Yeah, it applies everywhere.
Climbing the ladder means you have to let go of the craft that you mastered. Your job isn't to be the best individual performer in the building anymore. Your job is to build a team that thrives without your constant intervention. You have to put down the guitar, step off the stage, and start managing the band.
It is a difficult, ego-bruising transition, but it is the only way to scale your impact beyond your own 2 hands. And I think this entire journey leaves us with a fascinating paradox to consider.
Oh, what's that?
If the ultimate goal of the leadership shift, the whole point of building these systems and coaching these people, is to make yourself completely unnecessary to the day-to-day operations.
Right.
Once your team no longer needs you to survive, what does your new purpose become? Does true leadership actually begin only after you've made yourself entirely redundant?
Wow, that is definitely something to chew on. Once the machine runs itself, where do you point it? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take a hard look at your calendar this week and ask yourself what it really says about your true values. Are you still trying to be the hero? Or are you finally ready to be a leader? We'll see you next time.